Hey everybody, we're going to make some prints today based on the artwork of a Japanese artist named Hokusai. He made woodblock prints in what's called the ukiyo-e style, and what we're going to do is use styrofoam in order to make these prints. So before we do that, let's look at some of the prints by this artist. This is the Great Wave, and this is probably the most famous one that you'll see. This is from a series called 36 Views of Mount Fuji. So the mountain is in all of these prints, even though a lot of times it's kind of small and in the background. So just to give you kind of an idea of the style and the color that these woodblock prints are done in, we can flick through a few of these, and you can Google these and learn a little bit more about the artist and check out some of the prints. But 36 Views of Mount Fuji is probably his most famous series of prints. Okay, there's a mountain in the background. Again, Mount Fuji in the background. So we're going to take this idea of making woodblock prints, but instead of carving wood and using that, we're going to use something that you probably have hanging around now, and that's going to be some styrofoam. So here's an example of what I did, and here's some of the print foam that I used at school to make this example. But in order to do this from home, what you're going to need is maybe a takeout box that you have from getting some food from a restaurant right now. So you've got the styrofoam takeout box, and if you have a knife at home, one of these utility knives, that would be the simplest way to cut out that styrofoam and get started. But of course you can do that with the scissors as well. So I'm going to cut that piece of foam out of there, and then with the scissors I could clean up the edges a little bit, okay, and make it more of a square if I wanted to, or really if you want to cut it into a different shape, okay, a circular shape or something like that, you could do that as well. Or you could kind of round the corners off. Why don't we try that? That'll be kind of cool. And so once you have your piece of foam cut apart, then what you're going to want to do is take a pencil or a pen or a color pencil or something like that, and you're actually going to scratch into the surface of the foam your design. Now, you don't have to do it right away on the foam. You can make a drawing first, so I'll show you a couple of different ways to get your idea from your paper onto the foam. So the first way to do that is to cut a piece of paper that's about the same size as your piece of foam, and then you can use that to go ahead and plan out your drawing a little bit. Okay, so since we're doing this based on Hokusai and Mount Fuji, we'll put a mountain into our picture as well. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, we'll make this kind of simple, but you can make it a little more complex if you want to. So we'll do a little mountain scene. How about a tree here, maybe some rocks in the foreground, and then we'll put a hill here, maybe a little bush or grass there, and then we'll make the mountain for the background. Okay, and so that'll get us basically what we want. How about we put a cloud there in the background too? That'll be kind of cool. All right, nice. So we've got our tree, our mountain, and our cloud into the background, okay? So you can make your picture whatever you want it to be, okay? That'll be up to you to decide how you want to draw the picture. If you are doing something with words or letters on it, then you're going to need to write everything reversed, okay? Or trace it with a Sharpie and then turn it over when you trace it onto the paper, because when you use this, it's going to be like a stamp, and when you flip it over and print it, everything will be reversed. So if you have letters or words on there, you need to do it in sort of a mirror image way. So what I'm going to do is take this and transfer it on. Now I can tape this onto the foam, and I can actually press down onto there, and it will put a little bit of a mark in the foam. But since I can do this without doing that kind of transfer over there, I think I'll just draw it straight away on the foam, okay? Also, this foam is a little bit more delicate than some of the print foam that I've used at school, and it tears apart a little bit easier, so you want to be careful. If your pencil is pretty sharp, okay, like this one is, you might want to actually dull the pencil a little bit so that it's not really sharp, okay? Round it off a little bit, okay? Colored pencils work good too because they usually have a little bit of a thicker lead, okay? And then you're going to scratch the design into the foam, okay? And start out by just lightly scratching the design into the foam, and you can press it down a little bit farther once you know you've got everything in place, okay? So we'll put this rock here and this rock here, and we'll put our little spiky grass looking thing there, and our hill, and then our tall mountain, and then the snow, and then the cloud, okay? So won't worry if it's exactly like what we did before, okay? So what I want to do after I've got all of that in is I want to press it down a little bit farther, okay? This pencil's not nearly as sharp as the other one, so I think that'll be good for this part, okay? And so I'm going to press down into the foam a little bit more. I don't need to press, okay, so hard that I rip through the foam and it ends up tearing through to the other side. But I want to press it down far enough that these lines will end up printing as white lines in the final design. So hopefully you've saved a few of those foam containers, and you can try this a few times, because doing it the first time is a little bit tricky, but once you've tried it a few times, you'll kind of have an idea of what you can accomplish. If you do have just styrofoam plates at home, you can do the same thing. You could just draw right in the bottom of the styrofoam plate and then do the printing from that. So if you look up real close, you'll see that I've got this image cut into or pressed down into the foam, okay? The artist with the woodblock prints would actually be carving those lines out and making a woodblock carving, but this will work for us to get kind of the basic idea. So after you've done this, then it's time to start adding some color and make a print and see what you want to do. Alright, cool. So I've got my markers set up here. So these are just regular water-based markers, okay? And they need to be water-based markers because otherwise they're not going to print. So don't try to use a permanent marker or something like that on this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color in the background of the picture with the marker, okay? So whatever color I want things to be, I'll go ahead and color that with the marker, okay? Don't worry if you get a little marker in your lines. That's not really a problem, okay? Because for the most part, the lines are going to end up printing as white lines, and that'll work. So let's just try this out and see what we get. So we'll do the tree green and the sky blue for now, and then after we've done kind of the regular color scheme, then we'll try experimenting a little bit with some more unusual colors and see if we can get something else that looks kind of cool too. So we're gonna add a little bit more to the trunk of the tree there. All right. So this should be brown, okay? Now, if any of you have done something like this before at school or with me, you know that usually we need to draw and print fairly quickly before the marker dries, but we're going to do something a little bit different today, so we're not going to worry about that too much. Okay, go ahead and make these rocks kind of orangish in color. We'll make the mountain kind of gray for now. And I don't know what we'll do with this hill. Why don't we try this sort of turquoise color? I don't know. It's not super realistic, but we'll go with it. All right. So that gets us the basics, okay? So it might dry out a little bit, okay? And that's okay for what we're doing with this. But what you want is several sheets of paper that are cut to be larger than your print, okay? So it fits on there easily, okay? I didn't add any color into the background of it, but you could do that if you wanted to. Let's print one without it and see what it looks like first, and then we'll go from there, okay? Once you've done this and the markers dry a little bit, then you need to get the paper wet so that you can transfer the water-based marker onto the paper easier. Okay, so I find the easiest way to do this is with a spray bottle, okay? But you could just get some water in a container, like with a sponge or something, and just wipe a little bit of water on there. You can try it a few different ways. If you actually put the water in, or the paper in a tray of water, you can get the paper to be pretty soaked, okay? You'll have to blot it, but you don't want it like dripping wet, because then your marker is just going to smear and bleed everywhere all over the paper. So you just need it slightly wet. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of water on the surface of this, and then I'm going to use a paper towel to blot the paper so that it's just slightly damp, okay? It just has a little water on the surface of it, okay? That should be enough to reactivate the marker, okay? And so then what we'll do is flip this paper over, okay, and press it onto there. I like to keep it sandwiched and flip it back over to the front side when I print. Then I can just rub the surface of the paper and we can get, now I didn't get much water on here at all, so let's see if that was enough. If you have a roller at home, you can try a rolling pin or a wallpaper roller or something like that. Sometimes you want to put another piece of paper on top of it, then you can really press down. You can get a spoon too and use that spoon to burnish the back of the paper. That's another good way to print it, but sometimes just using your hands is the best way. So let's pull this off of here and see what we got. All right, cool, not too bad, okay? So we got that print. You can see that We've got the green in the background for the tree. And so all the lines are white, okay? Now it's kind of hard to see where the difference is between the mountain and the cloud. And so I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks in order to print multiple versions of this so that you can try out some different ways of making it work. But this is the first way, so go ahead and try this out and print a few times. And then in the second video, I'm going to show you several different ways to add color and try out a few different things. Okay, so for now, we'll check out. See you guys next time. All right, bye-bye.